Earlier this week, there was serious golf instruction going on over at Gallaudet University, the first ever Eastern Deaf Golf Camp. Our next guest is a former touring pro who's now teaching golf to the hearing impaired using sign language. Rob Strano is the lead instructor for the U.S. Deaf Golf Camps and our guest right now. Rob, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me here.
And if you were at renditions from time to time, Rob probably looks familiar to you, and it's a great pleasure to have you here. But it's an even greater pleasure to talk about this notion of bringing golf to the hearing impaired. What got you in this direction?
Well, I was still playing full time, and I was getting up there in years and getting towards the end of my career, and I started to get injured. I had a rib injury, and I tore up my wrist and had to have knee surgery. And at that time, you know, my career was kind of winding down, and I was led one day to take up sign language. I'm not really sure where God was kind of directing that path, and one day I started to think, is anyone teaching the deaf how to play golf in sign language? And I asked Google, is anyone doing that? And I found no one in the world actively teaching the deaf how to play golf in sign language. And I got together with a gentleman who I'd met during my training, who was fourth generation deaf and ran the deaf and hard of hearing services in that area, and he said, let's do a deaf golf camp, and that was in 2004, and we did the first ever Southern Deaf Golf Camp in Pensacola, Florida. We had 15 kids, and in 2005, last year, we had 8 camps nationwide and over 250 kids, and this year we'll have 18 camps, almost 1,000 kids. We started the year in Hawaii and have swept across the country, and the great thing about the camps is they're completely free to the kids.
Golf instruction has to be, in a lot of ways, the most gratifying part of it, because you're sharing this great game with other people. I would think, though, it's even more gratifying to share it with some people who clearly their special needs weren't being met, and all of a sudden you show up and you're teaching these young people how to do it. I bet that feels pretty good.
Absolutely, and that was kind of the roadblock with the deaf learning the game, is that they couldn't go to the first tee or to their local pro to get instruction because sign language is a concept-based language. So things I would say normally in a pro-am, like swing easy, don't swing so hard, swing smooth, well, those don't translate, because hard and smooth are textures, and swing easy, well, that means easy to them is something that's not difficult to do. So to be able to take the instruction, make it concept-based, appropriate to them, give it to them in their own language, and make a visual program for these kids, it's been fantastic to see how quickly they pick the game up and how focused they are.
Is there an advantage in some ways to not having the distractions that sometimes come when you're on a golf course, and all the stuff that you hear that kind of gets in the way of seeing and executing golf shots?
There are some benefits to being deaf and playing golf, absolutely. But a good friend of mine is Kevin Hall, who's the deaf tour player from Ohio State that's played some events on the big tour. Right. And he's told me that he's got his own little demons he deals with as a deaf player, because deaf people see everything. Yes. So when he's out playing a tournament, he'll virtually see a leaf fall off a tree, and it'll be a distracting thing. So if a person moves or something, they see all that and take that in.
Real quickly, sort of run through what you do in these 2-day sessions, because this is as intensive a golf instruction program as anybody's going to find any place.
Exactly. The kids will come in groups of 8, so we keep the number small so we get lots of focus on the kids. And we start off initially with the foundation, the fundamentals, grip, how you stand, how you aim. We give them all that foundation, because without a good foundation, it's hard to do anything athletically. So we give them the good foundation, we focus hard on that, and then we transition to the visual aspect of it and what I call the circle of 6. And it's a set of 6 pictures that are on stakes, they're Velcroed on these stakes, and they're in a circle, and the kids will work around the circle and they'll mirror and pose in those positions. So they learn to feel where the club needs to be, where their body needs to be in these positions. And then when we're done with that, we go into some what I call position work, where we have stations set up, and they use teaching aids such as the leaderboard teaching equipment and the Smart Path teaching equipment, which are both sponsors of our camps, and they then learn how to feel more, and then they start hitting balls using the snag golf equipment.
You really begin to get the impression of just how extensive all this effort is, and want to make sure that you get to the website. It is usdeafgolf.org, the place to check it all out. Rob, thank you so much for coming and sharing this wonderful story.
Thank you for having me.
Best of luck to you as these continue.